No, I'm trying to hear what's going on. This kid starts watching it. I don't know what sort of video it was.
I remember I was there. You weren't out of line. I just love how it sounds like you're just like some old fart that thinks the kids these days are way out of line. I just love how it's coming across.
Well, someone asked a question. I'm sitting there just getting ready to listen, and this kid starts playing this video at top volume. I'm surprised other people around him didn't say anything.
I don't think you gave him much of a chance. You were on that pretty quick.
I was a little miffed. I mean, it was the guys behind us were bad enough.
I mean, I'm sure that the other people around him were like, I'm going to say something to that. Oh, never mind. The old man jumped all over him. That old guy just went nuts.
He's got a crazy look in his eyes.
You're listening to the Goblin Goldcast with Dex and Mac. I got mouths to feed, so let's get this thing started. Time is money, friend.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, Azeroth. You're listening to the Goblin Goldcast, your guide to making gold in World of Warcraft. This is episode 60. I'm your host, Dex, coming to you from Napa, California. With me on Skype is a man who, on a recent trip to Anaheim, informed me that elevators smell very different to dwarfs. My co-host, Mac, from Anchorage, Alaska. How you doing, Mac? And sorry about that.
Dude. But you sound so subdued today.
We survived Anaheim.
Did that trip take too much out of you?
I did. I did the opening a little differently, didn't I?
You were a little slow.
I thought I'd mix it up and try it a little bit different because we have been accused of using the same opening over and over again. People think that it's pre-recorded.
Oh, no way.
I'll just change the tempo a little bit, and people will say, "What in the hell?" Yeah.
So they'll nod off, 2 minutes into it, and
Yeah, it's like the mellow oldies. The voice of the mellow oldies.
That was like Friday night at BlizzCon. Yeah, no, I know. Or was that Thursday? It was Thursday.
It's all running together for me. I have no idea. From what I understand, I was the home entertainment center for everybody at least one night.
A couple nights, yeah. Well, one night that you...
Look
one
at
night
you keeping score. What's
up with that? I had to become the voice of reason 2 nights when we were down there, which never has happened before.
Not a comfortable place for you. I know that's not usually your thing.
Yeah, for those of you who are with us, well, I was trying to keep them under control. Sorry.
So for those of you that might be wondering what we're talking about BlizzCon. We made the trip out there to Anaheim. Mac caught his flight, a little red-eye flight, right?
Yeah, red-eye flight. Landed in Portland, Oregon. Had a slight layover in Portland, then headed on down to San Francisco and landed. Got out front and called you to tell you what terminal I had landed in, so you weren't going to the wrong terminal.
Yeah.
And you proceeded to tell me you were delayed by at least an hour due to traffic.
Oh, and I thought it was going to be much worse. Now my GPS updates for when there's traffic detected and all of that, and so there was an accident. And by the time I got to where the accident was, it had cleared up a bit. It slowed me down probably about an hour or more, but it was supposed to be worse.
It was funny because, my daughter was hey, how are things going? I said, Uncle Dex is going to be a little bit late. She said, oh, that's fine. You know what to do. Just go inside and have a couple drinks at the bar. Well, 2 problems. One, the bars are on the other side of security. Number 2, I promised to take half of the driving going down to Anaheim. So
now we're talking about, no problem, go to the bar. We're talking about, early in the morning here.
Well, it's 9 a.m. She knows me. It's noon somewhere.
9 a.m. Yeah, it's like it's noon somewhere in the world. It's fine, right? Notice I didn't say 5 because that would be silly to suggest that.
Waiting till 5? Come on.
Oh, man.
I can hear them calling to me from the fridge.
Oh, well, when I finally got there, and luckily, normally when I go to SFO pick somebody up at the airport. It's cram-packed full of cars. It was kind of like that when we brought you back, but when I picked you up, it was pretty empty there. I was able to pull right up. There you were. It was the easiest in and out of the airport that I ever had there.
Because the flight had landed an hour earlier and everyone else was no.
I don't think you were the only flight coming in. So yeah, we get on the road and yeah, you were kind and didn't drink, so that you were able to share the driving with me a little bit on the way to Anaheim, which is nice. Although I think I did have to remind you a time or two that you weren't driving on ice and that you could do, over 40 on the freeway.
Yeah. I think I was creating a little road rage. I was sitting there at 75 and people are coming up on my bumper. It's like, what the hell?
Now, anybody who's ever driven, along I-5 from Northern California to Southern California and hears you say that you were driving 75, wonders how you survived and how somebody didn't road rage out and shoot you. Because 75, that's a hanging offense on Interstate 5.
It's slow in the slow lane. I mean,
oh man, but so yeah, I think you caught on to how it works. You've got the slow lane, which is all trucks that are doing 55, and then you've got the fast lane, which is everyone doing 90 plus, and you have to kind of choose your poison, which one you want. There is no in between on Interstate 5. So we got into town on the first night. What night was that? That was Wednesday night.
That was Wednesday night. Yeah, we were trying to make it in time for DitchCon. Ponecast has a little party they put on Wednesday night, and
right.
Well done.
Did we make it to that?
We did make it to that.
Okay. No, and I'm not making a joke with that. I must admit, a little bit of BlizzCon was a blur. And I'm trying to remember the first night if we made it to that party, and we did.
we were getting up. I mean, first of all, I've been long. I had very little sleep. I was operating on in 24 hours. I'd had about 2 hours of sleep. I don't sleep well on the plane.
Well, we were being pretty good that night, weren't we? No?
Kind of. Yeah.
Well, we hadn't hit Walmart to stock the fridge yet, so we were having to buy the expensive drinks. So.
Right. That was the next day. We went out and had breakfast, and then went hit the store for some refreshments for the rest of BlizzCon. After realizing how expensive they were going to be at the bar there.
I just remember going through checkout, and poor girl at the checkout. She's like, "So is there a party?" And we're like, "No. Why do you ask?" Well, what are you trying to say?
This is only like 3 or 4 days worth, and her eyes get real big. Yeah.
She's like, I think I can go along. Anyway.
It was pretty funny because we got there, and the whole decision was we're going to get there, we're going to park the rental car, and then we're going to use Lyft the rest of the trip there, just because, I don't want to drive.
Well, there are multiple reasons to use Lyft.
First of all, we don't know our way around. The
official reason that I told my wife was that parking would really suck, and that by the time we found parking and paid for parking, in a parking garage and all that it would just be a complete nightmare. And I'm not saying that wasn't a valid reason, right. But the fact that we would be in no condition to drive would probably be a more accurate thing to say.
You weren't even in condition to operate an elevator. I mean, and this is before you were drinking. This is after we've got into the hotel room. First night, we're heading out to DitchCon. We walk out of the hotel room, and Dex's leg was bothering him, so we didn't want to do the stairs, and so we go to the elevator and walk inside. And Dex is over standing in front of the buttons, and I'm looking at him, and he looks at me and goes, "Oh, I guess I should hit the floor." He pushes the button. The doors open up again to the same floor we just got on.
I was thinking that was a real fast elevator. I was impressed.
So I moved the old man out of the way and took control of the elevator for the rest of the
We were on the second floor, and in my defense, the third floor had a little 3 on the button. Second floor had a little 2, and then below that, the first floor, allegedly the first floor, had nothing on it. It was the number was worn off.
Because everyone uses that number, so you'd assume that would, anyways.
Well, so I guess I was supposed to assume that was the first floor, but what if that was taking us to the lower levels of hell or something like that? I mean, and then it's like I chose poorly, which happened a couple of times on this trip. But
we had some poor choices along the way. Yes,
we made some good ones though, like decisions for places to eat where we didn't have to wait for an hour and a half to get a table.
Oh yeah,
because we knew where to go. But, wow! So that worked out. But
yeah, kudos to the IHOP right around the corner from the convention center.
Oh well, I did want to point out that the time we went to Bubba Gump's, that was really interesting because so we head out from time to get a bite to eat, and of course there's 35,000 people on the streets looking for a place to eat at the same time, out from
right.
BlizzCon or what? Oh, sorry, it was 35,000.
Yeah,
I think it was, and so you see. Every restaurant within view has a line out the door, and just horrible. You're going to be waiting forever to get a seat. Now, the IHOP, when we went to that, they were fast. It wasn't that there wasn't a line. It was that they were getting people in and out.
Right.
And that was impressive. But we got some inside information for where a restaurant was. It was down and around a corner and out of visual sight for all these people that didn't know the area. And went to Bubba Gump's, and we walked right into our table and got our food and our beverages.
Right. And you shamed me into. I was trying to be nice. I went in there and I was going to have an iced tea, and then
you actually ordered it. You ordered the iced tea, and then I said, "Yeah, I'll have a margarita."
So he shamed me into getting something alcoholic.
It was hot.
I wasn't going to let you get a start on me. That happened too many times during this trip.
The look on your face, though, that I just I made you look so bad.
And make sure to card him. Yeah.
I tried to get the waiter to put like a bunch of little fruit and a little umbrella on your drink and everything. Anyway, but so the first night we got in wasn't really anything going on except for the party,
right?
And so and the next day we had all day before there was anything. So that was our opportunity to kind of handle things and. Found the Walmart, and they sell alcohol at Walmart.
Right there, yeah.
Very convenient. So, I know that's weird for you because in Alaska you can't just walk into
they've got it in a separate
store
they've got it in a separate portion. The store closed off. You can't sell it the same. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, we were able to get all that together, and that's when the girl at the checkout was surprised at the volume of alcohol that we were buying and thought maybe that there was a party.
But, well, there was, but
well, she used the term singular party.
There's multiple. Yes, it was just cheaper to get started in the hotel than go back and pay for, $11, $12, $24 drinks,
Yeah. And then, so then Thursday night, we had
Con Before the Storm.
Con Before the Storm, and
we got to meet up with
Reckles, with some people and everything.
Yeah, Reckles. And Thorn and Thist from Lagging Balls and some other people. We ran into so many people down there. I mean, anybody who. I mean, I've met so many people I can't remember everybody's name that we met at the convention. We had a lot of fun.
Now I'd had a little bit to drink when we went to that.
Yes, you're in rare form.
Because let's just say I didn't remember everybody that I met later. And I thought you were putting me on when you were saying, "Oh yeah, I remember you were talking to so and so." I was like, "No,
I didn't.
That didn't happen." So yeah, you did. No, but evidently, I was quite cordial.
And pliable too.
And pliable, yeah. I think I offended at least one fellow podcaster who will remain nameless because I got some glares. But anyway, in his defense, I'm sure I deserved it. But
yeah, I'm sure.
You don't have to agree so quickly. I'm just saying you could pause for a little while.
I've been on the receiving end.
Editing, I have to add a pause there to make it look like you thought about it for a second. But,
okay. I see how you got it.
Yeah, you were kind of annoying. It was okay. But so yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I mean, so I'm told. I don't remember, but.
But Con Before the Storm, another great party before BlizzCon. Then, and that was also the morning we realized that they had the pre-registration where you can actually, as long as you're registered, you can go get your badge early, so you don't stand in a line the day of BlizzCon.
Right, and this was your first BlizzCon.
Right.
And it was my second, but my first one was like 10 years prior. So I believe the one I went to before was 2007 when they announced Cataclysm. And as far as I remember, there was no early registration because the line stretched around several blocks
right.
to get in the door on the first day. And that was the longest line I have ever been, still to this day, in my life. And I was expecting something similar. And we saw people walking around with badges, and it was like, there's got to be an early registration. And then we checked our paperwork, which we had for literally months, like since what, like June or July. Mm-hmm. We've had this paperwork, and it says right on it, oh yeah, you can register on this day and this day and this day, for basically all day long. So registration was very quick. We just walked right through and
just don't lose your badge, yeah.
Right, and so we got our registration, and now here's a funny note on this, and I just I was very amused by this. When I went to BlizzCon in 2007, I believe we got a T-shirt, some other little things, knickknacks and things, and every year at BlizzCon, you know where I'm going.
I know exactly where you're going.
Every year at BlizzCon, they have some kind of, they have a goodie bag where they give you things. Well, as some of you may or may not know, there was a protest group. Well, depending on who you are, you would call them a protest group or you would call them a terrorist group. But Antifa had said that on November 4th, that was the start of the Civil War. So that got some people a little bit freaked out. And so there were snipers on top of the building there at BlizzCon and all of this added security. And now I'm sure some of that was due to what had happened in New York as well.
Las Vegas, yeah.
Well, no, I'm talking about New York.
Oh, yeah.
What had happened more recently in New York and probably Vegas as well. But because of recent terrorist activity and threats, they were at a high level of
security. Yeah,
security, sure. And so we go through and we get our badges and we get our goodie bag. The goodie bag, for those of you that don't know, was a backpack, a black backpack. It was full of stuff. And so when you're going into BlizzCon, if you're carrying a bag, you have to go through extra security where they search through the bags and everything. And they gave us backpacks. So, and they weren't just regular backpacks. They had all of these Velcro badges that you could collect and put on the back. So a lot of people were wearing them. We did not. We left ours in the hotel room, and we were glad that we did because we made it through going in and out a lot quicker, let's just say. And I got a kick out of it every time I went through the security. It was like, yeah, okay, well, did the guy get fired that came up with the idea? Let's give away backpacks at this one. I'm just wondering, And I think that was the first time we used the expression "they chose poorly" at this thing, which was an ongoing theme. But
it
anyway.
just happened.
Excuse
me.
So we had the Thursday night, and then we had Friday was the first night of BlizzCon.
First day of BlizzCon, right?
Excuse me. And so we got up, did breakfast, headed over, and did we do breakfast on the first day, or did we skip it?
No, we skipped breakfast. We did the opening ceremonies, and that was when we went to Bubba Gump's afterwards. We wanted to get something to eat.
Right,
it was day 2. We went to IHOP.
Yeah, so we went through for the opening ceremony, and it's always a good sign when your game is the last one that's being dealt with in the opening ceremony. It means you've got the most going on, the most being announced, the biggest deal. And there was, let's just say it was announcement heavy for World of Warcraft. And this is probably a good time for us to say, I mean, we're about 20 minutes or so into the podcast already, and we haven't told you anything about the expansion yet. And so this would probably be a good time to say this show, what we're doing is we're going to talk about the BlizzCon experience and all of that, and we're going to give an overview of announcements. We might give a little opinion here or there about what we thought about different announcements, but we are planning at least 1 or 2 follow-up shows where we're going to dive in a little deeper, because I mean, one of the announcements that was made, and we might as well say that one of the announcements was that they're going to do vanilla servers, which is something that's been talked about for a long time. And
that's been met with a lot of positive and some negative.
Well, and the thing is, anybody who's negative about the vanilla servers, there's a real easy solution for that. Don't play them.
Right. I've heard the complaint that that they're putting too much time into the vanilla when they could be putting that into current content.
See, you're going to make me dive deep into this right now.
Okay, we'll do that. We'll do that in a future show. Sorry.
But I have plenty to say about the classic servers. But anyway, that
was the day of that announcement was the day of the incident at the CTR party where
But what I was going to say is the reason why we're not going to go too deep into it is because the classic server, vanilla server announcement alone, and the gold making ramifications for what you can do on a realm that's like that, are so far reaching that could be
that'll take up a whole show
all of its own. And so we talked about it, we debated it. It wasn't really a lot of debate because we were kind of in agreement on it that we were going to need to do it this way because it's otherwise we're just rushing through the content and not having any time for digging into the BlizzCon experience or any of that, and we'd have to leave things out, cut things short, and we don't want to do that.
Right.
So anyway, opening ceremonies, we listened to, and keep in mind, Mac and I neither one play any of the other Blizzard games. Now
I've played a little Overwatch. I suck at it.
But I mean, currently we're not playing any of the other games. We've also done the what's the game that we played to get the mount there?
Hearthstone, or not Hearthstone? Con Before the Storm, or Con Before the Storm. Holy crap! Heroes of the Storm. There it is.
Was it Heroes of the Storm?
Heroes of the Storm is the one with the mount. That's the one where with Core is the podcast that talks about. Yeah.
Now I've had to do. I think I had to do Hearthstone too to get a mount as well.
Yeah, there is a Hearthstone mount you can get as well. I have not done that one yet.
They keep tricking me into trying the other games because they know I'm a mount collector. But at any rate, even though we're not playing the other games, I will say the announcements for the other games were quite entertaining.
Right.
And even when we didn't have the slightest clue what they were really talking about and why people were losing their minds and getting all excited, it was still entertaining. It was awesome. So and I was watching for when the WoW announcement was going to be, and as game after game was coming first, and I was kind of thinking, well, maybe Overwatch will be last because it's their biggest game right now. But when they did Overwatch and they hadn't done World of Warcraft yet, I think I told you, Mac, at that point, I said they're making an announcement beyond the expansion. There's more than that.
Right.
And,
you were concerned it was going to be a free-to-play thing before they announced the classic,
concerned.
right?
I was really concerned. I said they are, and one of the, and then they announced that StarCraft 2 was going free to play.
Right.
And then, now I don't play StarCraft 2, but I hung my head on that because I was really concerned that World of Warcraft would go free to play. And I know a lot of people would just love that if that happened. But having played games before that went free to play and saw how sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it's the death of the game.
Right.
Not real excited about the idea of that, because the bottom line for me is if they do it right, if they do a free to play right, I'm going to pay the same, because I'm going to be doing the free to play, and then the add-on parts that I would actually pay for are going to add up to what a subscription would be anyway.
Right.
So for me, there's no real upside, but there's a huge downside if it's a pay for power kind of thing.
Right.
It can be really bad. So anyway, I was very happy that the announcement was vanilla, and I did think that vanilla was coming too. I was happy that that's all it was. that was the extra thing. So were you surprised when they announced they were doing vanilla servers?
Oh no, that was good. I mean, I've been expecting it to come.
Right.
When they did the push to shut down the vanilla emulator servers.
Yeah.
I figured the only reason to do that would be if you're planning on doing that yourself, in my mind. I mean.
Right.
But.
Yeah.
Especially after they met with them.
Well, the back and forth on that, where it looked like something was going to get worked out and then it didn't.
Right.
And then it was kind of left dangling a little bit, like, oh, there's a reason for that kind of thing, and it was they knew then what was going to happen, and for anybody that's really excited about the whole vanilla server kind of thing, one thing to keep in mind: don't expect it for a very long time. This is not something that's imminent.
No,
that's not what they indicated.
No, they're still working some things out with that, so that's going to be.
They're still working everything out on that. It sounds like, because they don't even know which patch it's going to be set in, because this is not a progression server. This is a server that's set, frozen in time in one place, and they have to choose the right place.
Right. So we'll see and listen in, and I mean, I'm sure they'll make more announcements here in the future as to what's going on. But that was. I can't remember anything else day one. Was there anything else besides that? That Q&A was day one? Was that?
The day one was the Q&A was day two. That was the 4 o'clock at
the dive deep was day one.
Yeah, but they also had they had 3 things on the first day, right in the same place where we were sitting. Right after it finished the opening ceremonies, the next thing there was more detailed information about the World of Warcraft expansion,
right.
which is called Battle for Azeroth.
There we go. Yeah,
and we actually had more to talk about the announcements. When they made the announcements, they talked about other things. Besides the expansion, and one of them is that they're doing scaling zones. So just like in Legion, what we had in Legion,
right prior to Legion, then the Legion where you would get into crossroads and stuff like that, where the zone was scalable for the Legion invasions. It's going to be like that on all of the old zones pre Legion.
Right. And for anybody who wants to skip the experience of, let's say you don't want to do Burning Crusade, you'd like to just level up through Wrath, that's going to be Wrath of the Lich King and also the Last Crusade. Stay a while and listen.
That's
Sean Connery. Sorry, that's a bad reference. For those that don't like one expansion or another, it's going to scale from 60 to 80. Didn't they say?
I think so.
Both of those will.
Right.
Those
old
expansions.
Yeah, the old zones will scale. The old original vanilla zones will scale up to a certain. I think 10 to 40 in the starting zones, and then 40 to 60 in the other.
40 to 60 or something like that.
Yeah.
And then so you get into the Burning Crusade, and Wrath of the Lich King would be
higher.
up to 80.
Right.
And then you've got the next jump would be Cataclysm or Mists of Pandaria. So if you hate Cataclysm or you hate Mists of Pandaria or whatever, you can skip that. And, so they're giving you options for your leveling path. And so the way it would work is if, my understanding is it would work just like Legion dungeons, for instance. So if
or Legion zones, yeah.
Right, but I'm specifically talking about dungeons in this case for if you're wanting to do power leveling or something. Yeah. If I take somebody to try to power level them through a dungeon, and the best way to do that is to take them to a dungeon that they're under power, that they're under level for, that's overpowered to them. That's not going to be the case. It's going to scale right to them. So It will make that harder. There's definitely a downside. There are questions about how it's going to work as far as transmog and things like that. How it's going to work for certain items that only drop at a level range, and let's say you're a high level, and maybe it's going to be impossible for you at that point to get things at a certain range for transmog, because let's say it's an item that drops off of mobs that are level 52, and you can never get a level 52 mob.
Right.
So there are problems, and
from a gold making standpoint, we can talk about. We're planning on talking about it. We're diving a little deeper.
Right. And we're going to dive deeper into that later. But it's not just a problem from a gold making standpoint. It's also a problem from people that want transmog. Specifically for themselves, they're trying to acquire a piece, and this has been brought up, and so hopefully they'll work out some kind of a toggle so you can turn it on and off. That would be, to me, the best answer. Would be that you could turn scaling on and off as you choose. But
I don't think they're going to do that.
I don't think they will either. I'm just saying that would be the best option.
And they're talking about that going live. I think they were going to start on the PTR here pretty quick with that testing that out.
They're planning on having that go live with 7.3.5.
Right.
And is my understanding. And they now, what was the other thing? They had something else that was going to...
We were talking about switching to PvP, and PvE is going to be... They're going to have a switch for that. You will no longer have PvE and PvP servers. It'll be...
And again, this is all separate from the expansion.
Right, this will happen before the expansion. If you decide you want to... I mean, there's people that have gone over to PvP servers because they want to play with a friend. They get over, their friend quits, then are stuck on a server, and maybe they don't like PvP like certain people like me. Or it's not that I don't like it; I just suck at it.
Well, the idea is to get rid of non-consensual world PvP, and so you'll have a toggle. There'll be no more. The way I understand it, there won't be any more PvP and PvE realms. They'll just be realms, and so what'll happen with this is when you're in a capital city. You'll be able to flip this toggle on and off. It looks like that they're going to associate a certain amount of time, a cooldown on that. They hinted at that, but no idea what that's going to be.
Right. So you can't go harass somebody. He goes and gets his friends, and then they go, "Oh, I'm no longer PvP." And so you've got to do it in the main city too. So
I think the more likely the reason is, you know how in the capital cities you can complete quests.
There's that too.
Quests
Yeah.
will start in there. Well, here's what they said. They want to encourage the world PvP, but this is how they're talking about doing it. And I know you're not happy with this.
Yeah.
But what they're talking about doing is saying, okay, to encourage you to have the PvP switch on while you're out in the world and questing, is that you will get a higher rate of experience while you're out questing if you've got that on. And I know you see that as an experience penalty to those that don't have it on.
Right.
But the idea for having a timer, I think, for when you can switch it on and off, is so you don't go and complete quests as non-PvP and then switch it to PvP in the city
to do the turn-in, yeah.
To do the turn-in and then get a higher amount of experience. I'm not sure if that's how it'll work, or if it will look at what your state was when you started, or if you have to be in a certain state for the entire process. Not sure how that's going to work, and I think they have some bugs probably to figure out on that. Right. But the idea is to eliminate the whole non-consensual PvP.
Right. Another thing they announced that I kind of liked is and it's not tied to the expansion, but they're talking about it's going to happen, that your original bag that you get, that everyone's been complaining the size of the bag is small. They are going to increase that bag space if you have an authenticator. It'll be tied to having a Blizzard authenticator, whether it's an app on the phone or actual authenticator itself. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, now that came up in like a Q&A, and it's a question that comes up pretty much every BlizzCon.
Every BlizzCon, right?
And so what they've done finally is they've said, no word on when it's going. I mean, this hasn't been promised for 7.3.5. I don't want anybody to think that. This is something that they're talking about doing, and who knows when they will implement it. Like when we were talking about the vanilla server, I don't think vanilla server is going to happen until well after the expansion comes out,
right?
Because they've been working on the expansion a long time. Speaking of which, the expansion, the announcements on that, and we're going into a little bit about, they went into more detail immediately after. We chose poorly because we went to change our seats. We thought we were going to get more front and center. We had actually pretty good seats.
Really good seats. What we
found out was all the empty seats that we saw right down in the middle were like, I don't know, what do you think, about 300 seats or so press that were not being used. So
like six people.
Empty.
Yeah, there are like six people
in there. So anyway. We
chose poorly. We ended up in the back of the stadium for the last half of it.
And I forgot to bring my Jimmy Olsen disguise, and so I couldn't get in there. It's like anyway. So as far as the expansion, one of the things that people went crazy about are the allied races.
The allied races, 6 new races.
6 new races, 3 for each faction. You want to tell everybody a little bit about them?
Well, there's a storyline going with each of the new factions, so they're not going to let you just start right off. It's kind of like when they introduced the Death Knights at the time. You had to have level 55. These ones, when you're going to unlock these new races, you've got to get a certain faction to unlock the storyline. Then you start that character at level 20 through the storyline, and you do a little scenario to open the character, and supposedly the scenario stories are going to tell you why that race chose to go with the Horde or with the Alliance. And so they'll have like the High Mountain Tauren, which we've seen in this expansion. So you'll have Tauren that have the moose antlers versus the cow horns. You've got the Nightborn elves. Zandalori trolls are all going to be for the Horde.
Right.
You've got the Lightforged Draenei, Void Elves, and the Dark Iron Dwarves for the Alliance.
Right.
And so those are looking. It's going to be fun. Again, we'll go a little deeper into some of the expansion stuff here next podcast.
Yeah, and if anybody's wondering how in the world they're doing 3 new playable races,
they've got the models
expansion
already.
Yeah, they're reworks of the existing models, like putting antlers on the regular Taurens and so forth. So it wasn't as labor intensive as it sounds. So that's why they were able to do it. Otherwise, that would be like, wow, you know what? That would have been all the development time right there.
So that was day one of the con. We enjoyed ourselves that day. Went to the CDR party that night. They put on an awesome party. Got to meet more people over there. Got to meet John Jagger, Ben Baumhofer from Azeroth Roundtable. Had a nice conversation with them. Awesome time. We had the incident with the waiter over there. We found a nice table, and the line for the bar was a little long, so I went over and I was getting a couple drinks, and I was trying to be on my best behavior, so I was drinking more. I was drinking more beer this trip than usual. I mean, instead of scotch only. Right. But I did grab a beer. And at the same time, it's like, you know what the heck? Just give me a scotch on the rocks. I normally do a scotch with a little splash of soda.
You had a second hand that wasn't doing anything. What the hell?
Right. No, and so basically, I knew it was going to melt a little bit when I was finishing my beer, so I didn't get a splash of soda with it. So scotch on a rock sitting next to me. We're sitting at the table talking, and there's some empties sitting around the table. And so the waiter comes by and starts grabbing the empties off the table. And my little glass of ice cubes with what looks like water in the bottom of it, he goes and grabs it. These drinks were kind of spendy. So
yeah, there's a reason why we filled the fridge and
so I kind of slapped his hand and like, hey, I've had like a sip out of that. Leave that alone. He was a little shocked. I got a little aggressive, you know.
It was like the only time, the entire time we were there, that I got to apologize for you.
Well, day two. I mean, day two. The big thing, we wanted to see the instance. They did a live. Kind of a Q&A podcast there. I don't know if it's a Q&A, but they did a podcast from inside of the Dark Moon Fair.
Right.
We went and saw that. Then we went and saw the Q&A. And this is my time to get up on the soapbox. If you're going to go to a Q&A, shut the up. I mean, I don't mind. I mean, we're smart, Alex. I don't mind you popping off or something like that. But if you're going to sit in there, well, we're trying to hear it. I mean, the Q&A, we had some guys sitting behind us talking, not quietly, not whispering. They're just sitting there having a loud conversation between each other.
Right.
Well, we're trying to listen to Q&A.
This is not in the back of the building. This is like few rows. Up
to the first few rows.
Yeah.
And then I had this kid sitting next to me flip on his phone and start watching a video. Not with headset on. He starts I finally leaned over at him as I was mad enough at the guys behind us who wouldn't shut the heck up.
Yeah.
I said, why don't you turn that thing off or leave the room?
Yeah.
And I don't think I know you saw me turn over there, and I
couldn't hear what you said. It was too loud to hear what you said to him.
He looked kind of shocked that I talked to him.
Yeah. But you know what I really love about this? I joke a lot about how old you are because, well, you are. But I know on the show I joke a lot about how old you are, but you really had a get off my lawn moment here. You're talking about, you're going to get on your soapbox. Well,
that way they can see I can see them eye to eye,
I mean, all of these, every one of these kids were younger than your kids. I believe, right?
Yeah. Oh, I know the kid with the video was.
Oh yeah. So so you really had a moment here where the music's too damn loud.
No, I'm trying to hear what's going on. This kid starts watching I don't know what sort of video it was.
I remember I was there. You weren't out of line. I just love how it sounds like you're just like some old fart that
it's like
the kids these days are way out of line. I just love how it's coming across.
Well, someone asked a question. I'm sitting there just getting ready to listen, and this kid starts playing this video at top volume. I'm surprised other people around him didn't say anything.
I don't think you gave him much of a chance. You were on that pretty quick.
I was a little miffed. I mean, it was the guys behind us were bad enough.
I mean, I'm sure that the other people around him were like, "I'm going to say something to that." Oh, never mind. The old man jumped all over him. That old guy just went nuts.
He's got a crazy look in his eyes. Anyway, sorry.
Everybody hit the floor. But,
I'll get off my soapbox. It was just I'm sorry. I mean, if you're gonna go to the Q&A, I mean, if you're not interested, leave.
Yeah.
There are people that came there to listen because they were interested.
Yeah.
So, anyways.
So when they're talking about and they're kind of diving a little deeper into the expansion and answering questions, one of the features that they're going to have are these island expeditions. And the way this is going to work, if anyone has ever played Mad Libs, where
Mad Libs for gaming experience, right?
Yeah, where you have to put a verb here, put a noun here, and then you read it afterwards, and it's a funny little story.
You start telling a story, and it says add a noun, add an adjective, add a verb.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, these adventures are going to be they're going to be class agnostic, and so you could have 3 warriors or 2 rogues and a mage, or you could have 3 hunters. Well, no, not 3 hunters. That's not a good idea. But I'm just saying somebody's going to screw it up. But I can say that. Don't get mad. I play a hunter. But anyway, the way it will work is it will randomly choose the foes and the goal and the reward, and the adventure should not be the same for you twice. It should be different each time that you do it, and it's an opportunity for you to gather a substance called azurite, which is the main currency-like material that is in the game. For your
Heart of Azeroth medallion.
Yeah. Now I'm calling it a currency, but it's I'm meaning that in the sense that this is the driving thing through the expansion that makes everything powerful. Not that you're going to use it to purchase gear from a vendor. Not like that.
It'll be like the points you put into your artifact weapon.
Right. So instead of it being something going into the weapon or whatever, that neck piece gets more powerful. And regardless of how you swap out the gear, the neck piece is the thing that decides how this amulet is what decides how powerful all of your pieces of gear are. I was calling it a neck piece, but that's not accurate.
Right.
Yeah.
Your new armor pieces are going to go in, but yeah.
Right. So you've got those adventures. My take on that, and I don't know how you feel, Mac, but my take on that is that could go really, really well and be a great feature, or it could go really poorly.
Yeah, it's going to be 50-50. I mean, if they do it right, it's going to be awesome.
It'll be awesome if they do it right, and if they don't, it will just seem thrown together. Like every time you get an adventure, it'll be like, oh, that's kind of weird. That doesn't make sense, Right. But anyway, we're gonna hope that it is the former and not the latter. But the main idea of the expansion, which we didn't talk about yet, is the idea of getting back to it being about a war between the Horde and the Alliance.
Yeah, they wanted to go back to the roots, back to the orcs versus humans sort of thing,
Right. So they're trying to get back to the roots of it. One of the things that I personally find very humorous about every expansion, and it doesn't ruin anything for me, it gives me a nice little chuckle, is that the plot is always the basic plot is always the same. oh, we really hate each other. Ooh, there's somebody worse than us. We're going to have to team up and basically kill this person, and then we're going to hate each other again afterwards. It seems like there's always a big bad that's worse than the other faction that we have to abandon the war with each other while we take care of that. And then at the end, we know everything's resolved when we go back to hating each other again, and things are back in our comfort zone there. This expansion is supposed to be about just the war between the Alliance and the Horde. And in what sets it off is two capital cities get destroyed. Both the Forsaken and the Night Elves lose their capital cities, which means that pretty much Kalimdor, it becomes all Horde, and the Eastern Kingdoms becomes all Alliance.
Right.
And so you've got the tree burns down, the Teldrassil tree burns down. They showed a graphic of that. I got a little excited. I must admit when I saw that. And then Undercity is destroyed, and I gotta say, I hate the layout of Undercity, and I'm not real upset about that either. It didn't really stir up the emotions in me that it did for others, but not the same emotions anyway. I look around, I'm the only one smiling. But
there were one point where we sat down and they were for the Horde and for the Alliance, and we were right in the middle of a bunch of guys yelling Alliance for the Alliance. We realized we had chosen poorly in our seating again.
That's okay. That's okay. I noticed that they gave us a little extra room when we said for the Horde.
Isn't that the guy that yelled at little Jimmy with this? Sorry.
You know that mean old man that attacked that poor kid with the cell phone? He's with the Horde. Look out. But,
I also wanted to take the time to say thank you for everyone who came up to us and said hi, and we had a couple people wanted to take pictures with us and everything. It was humbling.
It was surreal.
It was kind of amazing. The number of people.
Last time somebody wanted to take my picture.
I had a mugshot. Yes.
There was a height chart behind me, and I had to hold a sign.
Yeah.
And just, there's that fine line between, best party ever and why the hell is my bail so high? Yeah. I think we rode that line pretty. Well, I mean, you rode the line pretty good. I started to tip one direction a little too far.
Well, I kind of guided you back. Yeah. When I become the voice of reason, we know there's a problem.
I'm actually liking the new you.
Yeah. Mellowed with my age. Yes.
I loved it that I got to several times say, okay, Dad, sorry. Jeez. Don't tell Mom.
But again, thank you for everyone who came up and said hi to us.
It was great. We really enjoyed meeting people.
Yeah, it was a blast.
It was awesome. But the expansion, as far as where we're going in, there's a new continent, and there's going to be 3 zones for Horde, 3 zones for Alliance as you level from 110 to the new cap of 120.
Right.
And then when you hit 120, the other 3 open up to you. And so you'll have 6 expansions at that point, and so content will continue.
6 zones, yeah.
Yeah, 6 zones. What did I say?
6 expansions. 6 expansions for one, yeah. No. Yeah.
Oh man. So yeah, that was and then we finished up and had to make the drive home. And drive home was pretty uneventful, right?
Right, drive home was nice. There was a little confusion. Dex thought I was leaving Sunday night, and it turned out I was leaving Monday evening. He had things to do to do Monday, and so it was like, no problem. We'll just drop me off at the airport, and there's things. I mean, I've been in and out of San Francisco many times, most of it pre 9/11. And I remember there being some restaurants and stuff like that you can sit in, and I was just going to go sit down, have something to eat, and I could sit and read a book while I was waiting to get on my flight or get behind the security. Right. So Dex dropped me off at the airport about 11:30, 11:45 in the morning, and Alaska Airlines will not let you on. My flight wasn't until 10 o'clock at night, so they won't let you check in until 4 hours before your flight. So I couldn't check in until 6 p.m. Yeah. And that was when I discovered that they had a Starbucks and another coffee shop, and that was it on this side of security. So I sat out front of the airport in the little chairs reading my Kindle for
I think if you'd had access to a bar that entire time, you would have missed your flight.
No.
I'm quite certain.
I would have set an alarm. Yeah. They might not have let me on the flight, but
they have standards, Yeah. But
it was all good. Yeah, then got done there, landed in Seattle about midnight-ish, and everything was closed down. Nothing opened up till about 4:30 in the morning. So I basically found a couple seats, laid down, put my head on my jacket, and took a nap for a little bit. And got up.
Yeah. So we've talked about how we're going to expand a little bit on what we learned at BlizzCon in the next couple of shows. Also, we spoke to Reckles, who we interviewed before, and sounds like he's up for maybe doing another interview, or a little discussion. Not really an interview,
more of a discussion. What his thoughts is and our thoughts are on some of the changes that are happening that could affect the gold maker with some of these new changes that are coming up.
It sounds like his take on it on most things are with the expansion are pretty similar to our take. So so that'll be good to kind of flesh that out and see where we think it's going to go. But it's still early for a lot of this stuff. A lot of things are going to change, but between now and when things come out, it seems pretty obvious that there are going to be a lot of changes and that they have to work out some of the kinks.
And if I didn't mention, they're going to be doing the squish again. They're going to squish your item level and hit points and all of those other things again. We'll see. Last time I think that became problematic for some of the mobs, right? Right at the beginning.
It did, and so 7.3.5 is going to see a lot of things coming through that are non-expansion related that they're going to try to get in place and make sure that everything's okay.
Maybe the squish will happen then, huh?
I think that's what the plan is, but I'm not positive. But anyway, as you can see by the time, even just trying to cover a little bit of BlizzCon and just an overview, you see how late we're running, and we didn't go into detail on any of it really. So you can kind of see what we were up against there. So next time we will dive in and give some specifics on gold making and how we think that's going to be affected by what's up and coming.
Right.
Okay, well, I think that's going to about wrap up this week's episode. I'd like to thank Schaefer Bates for his awesome work as the Goblin voice at the beginning of each show. Also, Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com for his theme music, Hot Rock, licensed under Creative Commons.
And if you'd like to get a hold of us, you can contact us at Mac, that's M-A-C, at GoblinGoldcast.com, or Dex, that's D-E-X, at GoblinGoldcast.com. If you can't reach us at our main email, we have an alternate email, MacGoblinGoldcast at gmail.com. You can contact us on Twitter at Goblin Goldcast. You can visit us on Facebook, or you can join our Discord channel.
And if you'd like to support the show, don't forget to visit the swag store at cafepress.com/Goblin Goldcast. And you can leave us a voicemail on our website, GoblinGoldcast.com. And please subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, or Player FM if you listen to us there.
And we'll see you next week.
Now go make some gold.
Have a scotch on the rocks, please. Any scotch will do, as long as it's not a blend, of course. Single malt. Glenlivet, Glenfiddich, perhaps. Maybe a Glengow. Any Glen.
Scotch on the rocks.